Hi guys, thank you very much for joining me. Polina here, chatting to you a little bit about the month of November and what to expect for this time. So, as you have already maybe picked up, I've been saying that November is going to be a little bit of a trickster month. And for anything tricky, we just have to have very nice, simple, stable turnaround. So we have to have a very nice, simple equation for our life in order to be able to withstand some of the potential waves and some of the potential lessons that could be very sharp during this month. And they've already been pretty sharp during this year. So it feels to me that as this feels very cunning and very strange to me, I think maybe is going to really culminate certain events. And if you think you've been having a hard time, maybe this is going to really blow it all out of the water. And if you have been thinking, I'm having such a hard time, maybe this is going to be one of the pinnacles during this time. So I think it's very important not to be critical of yourself or other people. I think it's now no longer personal or private. A lot of the things that we think and we want to do, we want to be part of, I don't believe they can afford to be personal anymore. So, as I've said earlier this year, the ego is having a very interesting refurbishment. I believe that people are going through a very interesting ego phase during this particular year, and it's going to start to be very obvious that we can't afford to be an ego anymore, and that these delusions or these illusionary energies or values that we've had for quite a long time are going to start to be no longer viable. So some people cannot afford to play the game anymore. Some people cannot continue certain cycle. There are certain behavior patterns and there's certain relationships that are going to start to become incredibly taxing. And I feel that for all of us, there needs to be a changeover in the dream. So what I mean a changeover in a dream is we just got to basically call it. We got to say, look, I can't afford to do this anymore, or I will not participate with these people anymore, or I can't be part of this dream. And I also believe that we have to stop pretending. So, keeping up appearances, trying to do the same thing as other people, trying to do the same things that we've learned, trying to give to another person what they expect without really actually being able to afford to give it. And also, I think that with expectation and result, we've got to basically understand where is normal for us. People say the new normal, but it's not about that. It's where is the most neutral state for us? Where is the most placed and comfortable state for us? And we've got to basically say it when we can't really reach a certain peak, when we can't work this much, when we just can't, we don't have the strength, we don't have the time, we don't have the patience for certain things. Because here comes maturity in a way, and we have to become very, very obvious and open to ourselves and others and stop trying to play a game that is no longer affordable to play. So I talked a little bit about measure for a while. So September, Virgo was setting up a new unconscious grid for measure and for proportion. And then, of course, Libra, the sign of proportionality, was to show us where we are going wrong, like how things are working, who are the people that are actually there for us, all our value systems had to be shown up front. And this also could have drawn out a very interesting feeling that sometimes people don't like, the feeling of futility. Or the feeling of the end, or the feeling of no longer being able to afford or comply with certain things. It's like, I just can't do it anymore. I'm not strong enough, I don't have enough finances, I don't have enough energy, I don't have enough stamina, I don't have enough people, I don't have enough time or know-how. So we had to come to this very nice stability. So as we had these beautiful forms come out of Libra, these beautiful sequential golden means, we also had some non-events and non-results. And we have to understand now, especially where there's a pattern, for example, a pattern with people, a pattern in a workplace, a pattern with your significant other, or a pattern in a family, we have to basically face these and become true. And there's nothing wrong with coming out of that closet now. There's nothing wrong with coming out of that sequence, coming out and saying, look, you guys, I can't do this anymore. I've had a lot of things go up and bloom, and also I had a few things go up in flame, and October should have really shown already what was and what was not natural for us, what we could and could not participate with anymore, and what was fruiting and what was futile to water. You know, sometimes we're watering a plant that will never fruit, and that is not okay to do anymore. So I believe that we have to basically become more open and obvious to ourselves and other people now, and come out of those closets and be okay about the fact that there are certain types of things that we are participating in that are futile. Also have to talk about whim and whimsy and wishing to do cute frivolous things. You know, like sometimes a rat just loves to do fun things. You know, a rat will push certain people over the edge. So when it comes to drugs and alcohol and extensive behaviors, extensive use of certain substances or certain energies, you know, like acting out and playing out, all of those very, very whimsical, maybe for some people, and very free and fresh energies can sometimes be incredible and also futile in our lives. So I talked a little bit about this in the 2020 videos, talking about desire and lust and obsession with certain things. And here we have to understand where these are healthy and where these are not healthy. So if you have any kind of obsession with certain things, if you have obsession with detail, if you have obsession with a certain way of life, if you're obsessed with a certain person, or if you're obsessed with a certain type of story or a sequence, it has to be seen, is it futile and is it potentially also dangerous? Because we have to understand here, there's a lot of game going on, there's many a game, and there's many a play, because red can sometimes get incredible and very high flying and far-fetched during Scorpio time. And we have to understand which way we're going here, because by having a night on the town or by taking a lot of substances or being part of universally crazy crazy experience, sometimes we can actually take our whole world or whatever we're working on and put it in a bin by accident. So we can actually here by accident absolutely be unable to function. So this is a very, very interesting, whimsical and curious time. I feel it's very curvy. I feel it's very seductive. I feel this time is incredibly also poor for us, and sometimes poverty or inability to have certain things, you know, so the limit on certain things, the limit on certain people, the limit on certain experiences, on certain equations can sometimes push out an extravagance, you know. So for instance, I have been walking the earth for a while, and now I'm sitting in a little apartment in Cusco with the city around me. So that's already creating this kind of limit. And sometimes these limits can be very bountiful for us because they can push us to a limit. So for example, if I choose to work and I choose to work out and I do things with other people, very hopefully and kindly, no matter where I am, is going to help me. But if I freak out because of my slightly low ceiling here and other things that sometimes the city will give, if I have a freak out because I'm living in an apartment right now, this might really bring certain things to an edge. So the thing here basically is not necessarily to lay low, but sometimes it comes to be very, very fruitful to just have some time. If you have a lot of energy, if your heartbeat is going 1,000,000 miles an hour, if you feel very, very strong about certain things, there are certain edges and corners that Scorpio time will provide to just snag us and to say, no, you can't carry on like this. So for example, if you are somebody who is prone to acting out anytime you're in a stressful situation or circumstance, or you have a lot of anger or a lot of toxicity sometimes, and it just comes to the surface and say, well, that's just how I am, you know. Sometimes there's not enough space. There's not enough space. There's not enough space, and there's not enough room, or there's not enough energy to be able to participate, you know, in certain things. So what I mean is, before perhaps you had passers-by or standers-by, you know, family and friends that could have been there while you had a very, very emotional time. But here we actually have a little mute on us. Like there is something that says, look, stop, don't go any further, just wait, you know. And on some occasion, there could be surveillance. I already talked about this in the full moon video for the 31st of October. Surveillance and very interesting outcomes. You know, you think you can do this, you think you can do that. Well, sometimes there could be somebody with a camera standing by. Sometimes it could be somebody that is very knowing of what you're doing. So if you are somebody who has been getting away with things, for example, taking a lot of money from your parents, you know, bringing yourself to an edge and then allowing yourself to erupt in front of another person, letting other people be the bystanders to your any kind of like volcanic or emotional activity, or wanting to have some kind of audience to something that does not need to be everything like that. It has to be kind of okay that it's happening, and it's happened before, but also we have to know that there are certain types of forces working with us through people, also maybe yourself and your loved ones, or people that are standing by that are not going to tolerate and they're not going to allow certain energies to continue as they have done. So it's a very interesting time for governments, actually. So it's a very interesting time for corruption of any kind, and any kind of unconscious, maybe unseen or secretive experiences or events, or you know, tactics going on, managerial tactics as well in the governments. So any kind of tyranny. Tyranny has to start to become a little bit more malleable and not so sharp, because here we have the ego at a very, very high state. And we also have to understand that sometimes this ego doesn't just stay at home and point finger at the loved ones. Sometimes this ego carries on and continues to positions of power where it is really not okay. And we have to basically understand that there could be a lot of things happening underneath us as well. So not everything is out up front. I think that there's a lot of maybe secret services or secret organizations that are working now towards trying to understand certain cycles and maybe even save the world, as they say. And that is okay. So also in terms of saving the world, very interesting time for surgery, very interesting time for any kind of unconscious activity where little by little by little you're starting to understand you've got to save something or somebody in your family. So for example, if you have a daughter or a son who is now at a peak, so you know, maybe they are self-harming or at a very critical state, you can start to try and do many things underneath to organize some kind of safety for your loved ones. So this is actually also very interesting for surgical procedures, and understanding now that certain things cannot be salvaged unless we are very quick. So for some people that have let themselves go, in a sense, you know, they haven't understood they had symptoms, they have ignored their symptoms for a long time, and now it's starting to erupt, or it's starting to evolve very quickly. So for example, cancer could be very aggressive during this time, as well as any kind of like any kind of viruses, any kind of bacteria, any kind of disease can be very fast spreading during this type of time. Also, as Venus at the end of the month is going into Scorpio, so it's a very viral energy. And we have to understand that it's not something that we did or we had to do to ourselves. It is just something that now needs to be fixed. So if it is kind of like feeling that like the ending of times, or things have come to a head, or there is an eruptive energy to what we are doing, or who we are inside even, and what we have going on in our bodies, it's a really good time to take care. So what I have here is something I love. Okay, my friend Barney knows all about this. Okay, this is the thermos. This is the thermos. Okay, so I've been teaching myself to ingest more liquids, as I never really had kind of the like of liquids. I never really liked to ingest liquids habitually, so I'm starting to make myself drink a lot of ginger tea and any kind of herbs, also learning a little bit more about different types of herbs here in Peru that I can take as a kind of prophylactic against any kind of inflammation. So if you're somebody who is kind of prone to inflammatory disease, if you have any kind of skin conditions that sometimes inflame, if you have any kind of thing also with fungus, bacteria, yeast or parasites, these sometimes are often going to come to an overhaul. So sometimes bacteria and parasites can breed at a very high rate during this time, and there could also be a lot of things under the cover that you're not aware of that are growing, that are breeding, or you know, they're creating chaos in your in your lungs or your body. And sometimes it's very small. Sometimes, we can just take it out by walking into the mountains for a while, or like, getting on the treadmill once a day, and that's it. And for some people, it's not actually a lot to move certain infestations or to move certain rubble from their body. Some of the time, it takes just a lot of sleep. It takes a lot of care, it takes a lot of calm and such. But for some people, it's going to be something that they have to really face. So if you have not taken care of your body, if you have been festering a little bit, there's not going to be probably any chance to solve it then with maybe very strong medications or drugs. So I believe that whoever you are and however your state of health is, it is, or just any affairs like family affairs, work, relationships, public life, anything, whatever is the state of it, it is quite good to come out if you have something festering. So if you have something that's not working within or without, so for example with people, with friends, with public, with your relationship, with your mum or dad, inside your actual body, if anything is slumping, if anything is going wrong, there are going to be thousands of people that can help you during this time. So here we have a very miraculous outcome, because the North Node here is in beautiful Gemini, and also we have a stellium, third house to the Sun. So this is very Gemini energy, multiples. Things can happen in multiples and in a multitude of ways, which I believe is very cool. So for example, here sometimes we can have a million hands help us with the one issue. So we can have a multi-talented team help us take care of something. We have a person with a multitude of beliefs or a multitude of ideas help us with something. Or there are many, many things said and done in order to fix something that's been there for a really long time. So I trust that this multiplicity, sometimes people don't like this about themselves, like multiplicity of attitudes, multiplicity, an eclectic collection, of treasures, or ideas, an eclectic idea, or like a bunch of ideas that are all linked to help that one thing can be something that is fabulous. Also, anybody who's a one-man band, so like a person that sometimes is, how they say, jack of all trades, and they also sometimes say master of none, which is true sometimes, sometimes. But there is like something very special about these people at this point in time, because I believe that there's going to be lots of ways and lots of reasons how your collected attitudes or collected ideas or rememberings, just facts that can help you or another person tremendously. So this is where I get really excited. Okay, so being quite an eclectic person myself to a degree, it was very strange sometimes, growing up thinking, I want to do it all, I want to do everything, but I never really wanted to specialize in the one thing. Like I never really knew who I was or where I was going, because of many, many, many reasons. And I've been participant on many levels and many things, and I've become very good at random things. And for some people, maybe, they don't see me like this, but I feel like I'm like an eclectic patchwork of different reasons, different energies, and different friends, and completely polar opposite places in the world, and types of life. So I've had a very eclectic experience, I suppose, incredibly, and that is going to come in handy now. So this is what I've actually been noticing for myself and other people in the last month or so. It's been under the surface, and I'm really feeling it. There are certain people that are ready to embody everything all together. It's like, yes, I'm this, and this, and this, and also I do a little bit of this. So that I think is actually really fabulous about this time. So this makes me really excited and like a little teary, so it makes me a little emotional. That there are going to be places and there are going to be spaces for people, contexts, that never had a context before. So I already talked a little bit about this, about the runt winning the prize. The person who seemed like they were the least likely to succeed, succeeding in large. The smallest detail being the main event. You know what I mean? This tiny idea or this tiny spark being the one that is most likely to succeed. I actually really believe that is going to change the world for a lot of people, Understanding that only like a small thing can fix the world. Also, I'm seeing development of vaccines and different types of medicines, and them understanding how a very, very small enzyme maybe could help the world right now, or there are certain types of enzymes and tiny small particles in our diet that are actually the make or break ones. You see, so it's a very, very interesting time where we were not looking before, where we didn't know anything was worth of anything, and suddenly from that worthless, seemingly barren place comes something very fine. So the people that have been learning, this is very interesting for me, and also a lot of the people that come to my channel as well, I believe, are great learners as well. So it's like people that have been learning, people that have been maybe suffering a little bit because nobody could understand them, people that are eclectic people, they play guitar and they draw and they dance and they, I don't know, like look after animals, like so they have all these little tiny eclectic thoughts and feelings. So they've been kind of picking up whatever they like, little scraps of culture to basically muse themselves into a greater state of calm. Sometimes little therapies that we choose for ourselves. There are certain hobbies, and other such elements that are now going to be needed. Also, we have Neptune, fifth house to the sun during this time. And I trust that some hobbies and some things of the heart and some very small words or some very, very tiny, seemingly minuscule things that we are a part of can fix large problems or can become part of the larger path. And I think it's good also for some people to see, as I'm seeing for myself as well, how life is starting to come into greater proportion. So that's something I believe is going to be really good for some people to see. So before maybe we thought, oh wow, how did I come here? Why did I do this? Why did I do that? Sometimes people have regrets, and I've already talked a little bit about this time, this season being partially um, flavored with regret. And I think regret is one of those things that we need to mature. So regret is kind of like compost to the soil. In a way, a little bit of regret, just a little bit. We don't have to, it's like a little bit of salt, like we don't have to wallow in regret, but just like to understand that the human condition of regret sometimes can help us evolve our lives in very, very magic ways. And I think that we need to basically take advantage if we are feeling shame, regret, or like we've come to the end of a journey, or there is like only a certain capacity that we always ever had for certain things. And it also feels that everything that we've had that used to maybe feel strange or regretful, like our parents would say, what are you going to do with that? Or like, I can't believe you studied music, like what are you going to do with that? All of those things that we maybe felt were pointless about us, but there was something in the heart that was really warmed by certain things and certain people and certain paths and certain ways of spending time. I actually trust that this is going to start to all believe in itself. So those little runty things like little permaculture farms, this sort of like sideways alternative experiences, like sketching in a little sketchbook, doing things as if a child, like drawing upon your inspiration in those tiny ways and feeling misunderstood or mistreated. Like that runt or that beggar even, or that person that was always in between and never fully flowered. Like it's kind of like sometimes we have that as adults. There are certain people that do and will inevitably be strong and believe in themselves so much that they will just evaporate all else except for themselves, and they will just be that strong essence. And then there's lots of us people that are kind of like in between, and we kind of felt like we never really lived until now. So now sometimes is where you get booked to do the most incredible things that are actually in your nature. This is where you can finish a job and start a completely new cycle with creativity. This is where your stamp collection or your card collection is very vivid, and everybody wants to buy your wares for nothing, seemingly. So this is where it comes in really, really handy if you've got some kind of a part of your soul that you retained from when you were a teenager or a child, as it seems to be one of those really gorgeous, miraculous parts that never really fully shines until certain moments and cannot fully integrate with your greater adult self or with your greater human until a certain time in history of all things. And it feels to me that it is a time in history of all things where that which has fallen apart and that which has maybe decayed or disintegrated or was once this or that can be restored. So restorative surgery as well. Restoring teeth and hair, restoring skin, restoration of a house, restoration of your previous things. All the things that you never thought would stand can now stand. So here we have incredible Uranus retrograde. We also got Mars retrograde at the beginning here. We have it in us, okay? And also actually Chiron retrograde and Neptune retrograde until later. We have it in us to restore, and also Mercury retrograde at the beginning of the month as well. Restore and break even. You know what I mean? And sometimes also during this time, as Venus is trailing behind the Sun, we can restore a relationship and we can create a previous success as well. So this is something that I'm noticing for myself. For me, one of the things that has come to the surface is the fact that my art is interesting to some people. So I have not had any, how can I say, interest in my own art as well. I haven't had anybody fully understand what I was doing with that until recently. So I've had people recently ask if I can put my things in frames and maybe sell them or be part of a brand as an artist, which is very creative and very amazing for me. So this is becoming something strong. So this is where I'm saying, you know, the previously unrequited love, okay, the previously broken marriage, the previously deficit or deceased part of your world can already now perhaps be seen as something that can be revived and resurrected on a level. So Scorpio resurrects for us many things, maybe too many things. Sometimes also there could be lots of things to be said about something we have been quiet about for a long time. So if you have been bottling up feelings, now is a very sad and scary time for some people to come out about some really crazy stuff. Now is a very, very scary time to get the diagnosis that's been in your body for 5 or 6 years. Okay, now is a really scary time to fully tell your parent that they have abused you or they've done something bad in your life or that have somehow miscommunicated with you. It's a very, very scary time to do that. So for those of us that are feeling that brewing underneath, okay, like, my gosh, I really need to say something to someone, you know, like, and you haven't expressed anything, you haven't been, you know, helping yourself, you have to maybe go to someone who can help. At this point, there's going to be lots of people that are going to support you and hold you and help you out. So a therapist is really good right now. A doctor is really lucky. You know, a friend of a friend of a friend, even somebody that was in your family or even was in your family once is a lucky person now, you know. But the way that I'm seeing is it's not to freak out, as there is also a good type of brewing as well. It's a very interesting time for conception, you know, on most level, all levels, you know. It's also a very good time for really maturing friendships and really good results. It's a really good time for marriage. And I also feel it's a really good time for special things that we make over time. So for example, if you're printmaking, if you're making certain type of batik prints, and they take maybe weeks sometimes to complete, it's very lucky for us that if you have a certain recipe of an old school wine or some kind of an interesting brew, and it takes a very long time to cook, it's very lucky. It's a very good time, very lucky time for medicines, for wine, for cheese, for special kind of ointments and oils, things that go through a process in order to get finished, completed. And if you are one of those very incredible traditional people that can work with your hands, like say making pottery or cheese or creating some kind of furnishings and doing things on your own to create a craft, you know, to create some kind of an object or food, it's very, very unusual time to get noticed by people for those very old, archaic things. And also tradition. Tradition is very, very easy here. So traditional thinking patterns are seen and understood finally. Biology based on genetics is understood and cleared. You know, behavioral patterns based on genetic timeline or genetic trauma is much easier to see. Also, all those natural ways, natural waves of energy are becoming more integrative into the collective psyche. So we are now starting to come out, thank goodness, of these patterns where we're like, you did this, he did that, she's not right, this is bad, this is bad. We're starting to understand now that it's not as simple as that, and we have to take into consideration a larger quota, a larger, I suppose, suitcase of information that comes with any kind of experience. So we have to understand the cause and effect in a way, and we do. So here we can understand why, like someone cries all the time. Here we can naturally, for some reason, understand why somebody's toxic or somebody's misbehaving. We can now probably understand the process that it takes to brew a really good beer, you know. And at this point also I feel that we're starting to really welcome ourselves more as people, and not as he said, she said, you know, not as predators, not as little pawns in a story either. I think we're starting to really believe in a greater cosmos behind it all. So if you have anybody or anything in your life that is starting to really make sense and come to fruit, perhaps it's a really miraculous time to make sure also that other people know about it, you know. So if you want, you can spread information. This is also interesting, spreading rumors and diseases. That is also very, very viable here, interestingly. But I mean, if you have something good to share, or if you fully finally cracked something, if you want to finally blog about that situation, if you want to finally express yourself or launch a novel, you know, if you want to finally write that letter to somebody, it's actually a very interesting, expansive energy, as for some people it's an eruption. And I think for some people it is worthy. So suddenly to have an eruption of hormones, an eruption of energy, an eruption of ideas also, an eruption. It needs not to be scary. You know, when somebody has been under the rug for a long time, they finally come out of any type of closet. If somebody has been on their own for a long time and suddenly they want to be with someone else, or vice versa, there's nothing that's scary about this big change. So this big group risk also that sometimes is involved with anybody else's first, you know, time feeling that they fully understand something. So what I mean is, like, someone can be incredibly vulnerable with all they think and feel, and then all of a sudden let it all go and let everybody know how they're feeling. And sometimes it will create a certain type of energy between many people. And there's going to be many people trying to understand through what they're saying, or there are going to be many people trying to realize what they're doing. So it's kind of like a very interesting sequence. And I'm going to return back to this point of multiplicity with this Gemini energy. This is where we have one thing connect to another. So we've got a multifractal of information, and also we have a multifractal of people and friends, perhaps being part of like one person's or one group's idea, you know. So this is a very viral energy, and it has to be cool. And if you are experiencing none of this, so if you are no longer in yourself feeling anything intense, wait for it. Maybe it'll come later on in the years, but it does feel that sometimes it is quite natural for a person to have a eureka or an excessive energy, like take a hold on them. But we can always be understanding and compassionate. Compassionate ways go a long way here. So being compassionate can be sometimes one of the only things you can do. And wait it out, because sometimes after any crack in a system, after any big storm, any large find, there are many things that will somehow try to heal that wound. There are many things that will come into place. So this is going to be, I think, not about the fear of any kind of extreme, you know. It's just about understanding the extreme as a way out of many cycles. And there's got to be something underneath also all of this which is happening that is trying to put everything together better. So this is what I've talked about during the full moon video for the end of October as well. There is something or somebody underneath it all trying to make it better. It's trying to make it better. So even a big storm, even a cataclysmic event or a big fight, is inside a child wishing to have a good family, maybe. Or it is a person who just wishes for peace, or it is a very, very simple human, cause and effect, like a very, very simple, kindly energy that is kind of causing these shocks, just as the body perhaps allows a certain bacteria to overgrow simply because it wants to heal itself fast, So there's lots of kind of climaxes. There's lots of larger sums of also money or energy being thrown around during this time. There are bigger wisdoms, there are larger schemes, there are many people also on board beyond or above or underneath this whole situation. It's not just about the one person going through something. And it does feel to me that this is beyond the previous game. So it's beyond the previous blueprint of the world. So it is like a very enormous, for some people, startup of a new adventure. And I think that for certain people, it is just a shock in order to be able to disengage from the previous and to very, very quickly engage with the future. So thank you very much. I hope that you've enjoyed this. If you'd like to know more about me and if you'd like to get a reading, there is all information in the links below. Also, if you want to know about your particular star sign, so by moon, ascendant, sun, stellium, please check out my Patreon. It is very cheap to join. And basically, it holds all the information for all signs, and I do my best on these half-hour videos for each sign each time, each month. And I also do special features, so I talk about the different planetary transits during the month. And I also help people with their day-to-day, so I try to debunk each day of the week, and I help people understand what is going on there. So if you'd like, please have a look. And also, I have a new book. I have the Almanac for 2021. It is probably not on sale right now because I'm recording this at the end of October, but it should be on sale by November. So if you like, please check out my site. I will probably link you guys in the caption also when it is fully published, and you'll be able to reach it on Amazon. So thank you very much, you guys. Thank you so much for participating in my work and being part of my world, liking my channel, subscribing. Please subscribe. And if you like, you can also add me on Facebook and such. So thank you very much. Enjoy. And I will see you next time. Bye.